Welcome to the Hawley Area Community Show. I'm Jody, your host, and I'm here at the Reach offices with someone new in town. And his name is Glenn Hansen, and he's the Chief of Police. And before you get nervous for me, I'm not under arrest. We're just meeting him today because you've been on the job for how long now?
I started on December 1st.
December 1st, so brand new to Hawley.
Yep, I was welcomed by many people in the community, which has been very nice.
Yeah, well, welcome to Hawley and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Started December 1st, like I said, and I've been showing a lot of different things around the community as well as different duties that I'll be doing. And so far, everybody's been very, very welcoming and very friendly.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. We do have some great people in town, and I know many folks were excited to have you come. So we just like to get to know a little bit more about you. So you're a native of?
Originally, I grew up in Herman, Minnesota.
Okay. Where is Herman near?
It's south of Fergus Falls, about 45 miles.
Okay.
And then I went to school at Moorhead State, where I graduated in 1985.
Oh, now people will figure out how old you are, but that's okay.
And I was a teacher for 4 years at a small school in Mapleton, North Dakota for 4 years.
Really? What did you teach?
I had elementary phy ed.
Okay.
And then after being a teacher, I applied to be a Fargo police officer and was there for 21 years. So.
I did not know that an elementary phy ed teacher gave you the qualifications to be a Fargo police officer.
Well, while going to school, I did some minor studies in law enforcement.
I see. Wow. And so you have been there, how long did you say?
I was with Fargo for 21 years.
21 years. Wow. I bet you've seen a lot and done a lot of things there.
Yep. I had many different duties while I was at Fargo, which I think paid off and helped me obtain this position as the Chief of Police in Hawley.
Wonderful. So what attracted you to the position in Hawley?
I like the area. It's close to the lakes, and we're very, when we visited and did some checking out the town, we really thought it was a nice community, and the people have been nice. Prior to being hired here, I talked with some of the people and knew some of the people that encouraged me to come out here and apply for the position.
Oh, wonderful. So in terms of what you did in the Fargo Police Department, what are some of the responsibilities that you had over the years?
Oh, when I was with Fargo, I went from patrol to narcotics. I was in narcotics for about 6 years and did some fascinating cases while there. I also was on the bike patrol. We had a bike patrol unit that started in 1992.
You mean officers on bikes?
Yep, officers on pedal bikes.
Do you see that come into Hawley?
Well, we'll do some if we can figure out how it will be arranged, but yes.
Really?
Possible.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And then after being in narcotics, I was promoted to sergeant, where I spent the last few years in Fargo as a supervisor for patrol. Really?
Okay. Wow, interesting. I bet working in narcotics, yeah, you've had some interesting experiences. So what sort of trends are there in the small towns outside of Fargo-Moorhead? Are there?
Well, I think Hawley will be very similar to the calls that we see, or we had seen in Fargo. A lot of disturbance for domestic abuse is happening. There's still drugs within the community. Obviously on a smaller scale, but it's pretty much the same happening out here as it happens in the bigger cities.
Really? Just a smaller scale?
Just a smaller scale.
So are there any preventative or proactive sort of programs that you've experienced that you'd like to bring to Hawley?
Well, when I was with Fargo, we participated in community-oriented policing, and that's exactly what I'm going to continue out in Hawley, is have the community partner with the police department to help us help them, where we can listen to any complaints they have. Maybe they'll have information they can give the police department that will lead us in the right direction. I have an open door policy where if they need to come down and talk to the chief about what the police department's doing, we can do that. Just get the community involved with everything that we can.
So you encourage people. I know I came down to your office the other day, and I can't say that I've normally done that, but to arrange this interview, and you're saying that folks can come down and say hello and give you input as to what's going on.
Certainly. And obviously, if they have information on crimes, we'd certainly be interested in hearing that too.
Okay. And so is that the best way to get a hold of the police department, or what's the best way?
Well, the best way would probably be either by phone or stop in. They certainly call a dispatch and we'll send an officer right to their residence.
When I called the Hawley number, it went to a dispatch. Does that always happen?
Yeah, not always. Some of the phone calls are handled by the dispatch out of the Red River Regional Dispatch Center and located in Fargo. We're part of that.
Okay.
And other than that, there's a local number that they can call. Sometimes it goes to the dispatch center. Sometimes it'll be answered by one of the officers or myself.
Okay. Well, we're going to just take a little break and come back and learn more about Glenn Hansen, the new Chief of Police. And we're back with Chief of Police Glenn Hansen, the new Chief of Police in Hawley, Minnesota. I'd like to ask, I know there's been transition, of course, over the years, but how big is your force right now? Is that what it's called, the police force in
our
Hawley?
Police force, there's 3 full-time officers,
Okay.
and we have 5 part-time officers. Right now there's a couple openings because some of them had went other places. So there'll be some interviews set up here in the next couple weeks for interviewing for some part-time officers.
How many? Do you know how many you're looking for? Or
We'll probably try to hire 2 of them,
mm-hmm.
and there's a good pool of officers that have applied.
Wow. So you talked a little bit about your background in education and said that you evolved into a police officer, but what really led you to it? What made you want to go into law enforcement?
Well, when I was very young, I always had a desire to be a police officer, and I remember one time on our farm, we had someone drive out to one of our combines in the middle of the field and siphon some gas out, and as a kid I tried to do some CSI work, which was not successful, but it was one of the things that I remember early in my career as always having a toy holster and a gun and a cowboy hat, but wanting to be a police officer.
Sure. Well, I don't think people would object if you wear a cowboy hat, if that's your fantasy.
No.
I mean, that's harmless.
No, I won't be wearing a cowboy hat.
You've given up the cowboy hat. So you mentioned a combine. You must have a farming background? Or?
Yep, grew up on a farm in rural Herman, Minnesota.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Did grain farming.
Grain farming.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then you should fit right in around here.
Yep, very similar. And Herman's a lot smaller, but still it's a nice similar effect as far as what the community is like.
Sure. So in terms of crime, you mentioned, we're kind of a microcosm of what maybe is happening in Fargo-Moorhead, but what about youth? What's your philosophy on youth and crime and that sort of thing?
Well, juveniles that get into trouble, we'd like to help them out. Obviously, they're treated differently than adults, and I'd like to see that they get the help or get in some programs that can help them, get out of the age of vandalism or get them, on the right track with school and maybe, if their parents can help along with the police, maybe we can get them on the right track.
Mm-hmm. And I know in the past, I think the Hawley law enforcement has had a very good collaboration with the school, is my understanding, that there have been a lot of partnering that's happened. Do you see that happening?
We'll continue to work right with the school and help them and assist them in any way we can.
That's wonderful, because we have a great thing going in the school system, but some kids just need to kind of get on the right direction.
Yep.
And so are you planning every year? There's the Night to Unite, I believe. Very successful last year. Are you planning on doing something like that?
Yep, I'd like to continue that.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the statistics and facts that took place last year, but I would like to continue that program, and I'll know more about it once I get my hands on it. I really have been busy with other
I'm
details.
sure you have. Night to Unite is probably last on your list, because there's a lot of... Well, even your office, I saw that are they renovating it, painting it? Or?
Oh, it was just being, a lot of stuff being pulled out, and it'll be painted, so I have to have everything off the walls. So.
Right. Well, a lot of new things happening around town. I'd like to thank you again for joining us. It was nice to meet you, and I'm sure we'll see you around. Until next time.